And my question will go to the Council for the Governor. And let me start by saying that Article 195 of the Constitution is very clear in regards to the powers of the County Assembly in regards to being able to summon for any person to appear for purposes of giving evidence or information, and Part B of that compels for the production of documents. On Volume 2, page 31 and page 32, we have letters that the CEC had been requested to be able to issue audited reports for financial year 22-23, knowing very well we are currently in financial year 23-24. And apparently, the response to the letter indicated that still, the Auditor General was in the process of auditing the financial statements, which forms part of the response that they had requested. And yet, we have already closed financial year 22 and 23. So I would like a clarification as to why the CEC Finance was not in a position to be able to submit the audited reports as required as per the PFM Act. And on the same, PFM Act Article 91 states very clearly that the County Assembly should be able to set the capping for the impressed amount. Did the Assembly have the opportunity to be able to cap the amount of interest that is supposed to be used as required? Because we've seen 78 million interest, but what we have in the records as per what has been tabled is amounting to a lesser amount. So we'd want to know the levels of the amounts of the interest. And finally, because I don't think I'll get maybe another opportunity, I would be very curious to know, Mr. Speaker, finally, if today, which is a very key day for this decision for the MERU County, knowing that this is the second impeachment process, Madam Governor, being the second one, you realize that all the MCAs in the first round agreed to your impeachment. The second round, the same MCAs agreed to your impeachment. Madam Governor, knowing very well that the County Assembly are responsible for passing your budgets, how do you then plan, if you go back to the same county, how will you ensure that these same MCAs who still impeached you for the second time are still going to ensure that they pass your budget so that you can continue with the developments required in MERU, and you're going to offer the MERU people the services, quality services that they deserve? Those are my simple questions, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Council.
I didn't get that question, but there are some questions to the witness. Perhaps he can start with those.
Okay, thank you. Probably the question that was posed to me is on why the CEC Finance, what response the CEC Finance gave to the County Assembly when requested to submit the IFMIS, an extract of the IFMIS, as per the letter dated 9th October 2023. And the response that the CCM Finance gave, that these are statements, the Public Finance Management Act under Section 164 makes provisions for the county treasury of the county government to prepare and submit to the Auditor General the annual financial statements in respect of county governments. And the CCM further saying that it is upon the completion of the audit that a report is submitted to the County Assembly, where within 3 months after receiving the audit report, the County Assembly can take appropriate action. So The audit process is ongoing. When this process finalizes, the audit report will be tabled to the Assembly, and the Assembly can take appropriate action on the same.
Talking of financial year 23-24.
Senator Tabitha, you certainly cannot do that. Proceed, Council.
Just answer.
Okay. I'll let the witness also answer the second question, which was on why we accounted for less than what was set out there.
Thank you. And why we accounted for only 2 million as opposed to the 78 million that has been alleged here is that the manner in which that count was framed, it was, the allegation was that the governor has misappropriated funds through specific named persons who are indicated and collectively referred to as the governor's relatives. It is on this breadth that we endeavored to account for payment that has been made to these particular specific persons amounting to 2 million.
Okay, and then the last question that you asked, or first which was overlapping, we have said that there are consequences for disobeying a summon by the county assembly. That is set out in statute, so that if somebody is summoned and that person does not appear, the county assembly, just like this house, has something it can do to command the enforcement of the orders. So that I think that that is there. It doesn't mean that somebody has to be impeached. There are cases where we have seen, for example, this house summoning someone who doesn't appear. Doesn't mean those people then become a subject of an impeachment. That's what we are responding to in the context of this discussion.
Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is some clarification from Mr. Mnene. We have some invoices that are not signed by the authorizing officers. You have indicated that they have not been signed because the original documents which have all the signatures are with the external auditors. But Mr. Speaker, my knowledge of accounting has it that the documents that are taken to the auditors are actually original copies, and you are left with the photocopies. So I don't know how you're able to get these documents that you've put in the annexures. Where did you fish them from? I want that clarity, because then the ones with all the signatures were with the external auditors. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I indicated that these documents, we got them from the file of the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff, ordinarily what he does is that before he forwards the document, the original document to the Department of Finance, he makes a copy. And when we were given these directives that we need to respond within 3 days, I requested the Chief of Staff to give me a copy of the file that he owns, where these documents are.
Senator Miraj.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My questions goes to the County Assembly. Are the IFMIS transactions that form the basis of the impeachment of the governor the same ones that are the same ones under investigations at the EACC? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Respond.
Mr. Speaker, we do not know. All we know is that this complaint was also sent to the EACC and to many other agencies. Whether EACC is actually investigating it, we do not know, and there is no evidence, either from the governor or from anyone, that the EACC is investigating these complaints.
Senator Lekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've got two clarifications that I need to get clarified. One is from the lawyer. I was listening to, and the question...
Which
is in
lawyer?
your-
There are so many lawyers here.
The lawyer for the Assembly. Theonkolu. It's a very good name. Volume 3. We are looking at section 45, protection of public property and revenue, etc. So you referred to 45, 2A, Roman numeral number 2 and 3. And specifically, you said goods not supplied or not supplied in full, number 2, services not rendered or not adequately rendered. So the question that I wanted to get clarity from you is whether you are relying 100% on the IFMIS extracts or you've received audited financial statements as per Section 31 of the Public Audit Act. And I want to remind you, Section 31(5) stipulates that after the audit process, they shall be tabled in Parliament and also at the Assembly. So if you can clarify that, I'd really appreciate it. Number 2, I asked this question yesterday. I didn't get a proper clarification. It has come back again today on the issue of the accounting officer. Section 103 of the PFM Act establishes the county treasury, and it puts the CEC in charge of finance as the head of the county treasury. Section 199 of the PFM Act, which is a penalty clause, stipulates penalties which are going to befall any public officer who is in charge of the resources and does not account for them. Could you kindly clarify whether the documents that you've supplied in the case have been audited by the Auditor General and an opinion rendered by the Auditor General on the actual position of those funds? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Council, proceed to respond.
Mr. Speaker, we answered yesterday that the oversight function of the County Assembly and indeed of the Senate is not conditional upon or dependent on whether there is a report by the Auditor General. So it is no requirement that we have a report from the Auditor General as a precondition for raising the issues and picking up the problems that the Assembly has picked in this matter. It is true, Mr. Speaker, that under the PFM Act, the accounting officer would be either the CEC Finance or any other person designated. However, what we have equally found strange, and I think one honorable senator pointed it, the CEC Finance refused, and it's on the record, to submit the documents to the Assembly in our submission on completely outrageous and frivolous grounds. The second matter we found strange is that the documents presented by the governor in answer to the charges are not authenticated by that CEC Finance. They are not authenticated by the chief officer in that department, among other people. We also found it strange, Mr. Speaker, that when this matter arose, the governor chose to call our head of legal as the witness to explain, as opposed to the CEC Finance. There is a question of goods supplied and services not rendered. We cited Section 45 of the Anti-Corruption Act because it is one of the many sections that address this question of prepayments, and the specific reason we cited it, Mr. Speaker, is in our very humble submission, IMPREST cannot explain the prepayment of 78 million shillings. And even if it were to be accepted for argument's sake, just for argument's sake, that IMPREST would be an answer, that would be an admission to abuse of IMPREST by the very definition of the same, because the law specifies what type of expenses can be defrayed by way of IMPREST. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that opportunity. I just have two questions directed to either the witness or the counsel to the governor. The response that you filed before us, Governor, page 105 to page 112, on the if mispayments relates to just 3 individuals, yet what have been given by the County Assembly has many other recipients. Perhaps you can clarify on that. The other question I have is on the if mispayments. There are payments made to one Jane Karimi Kaitha, and on a particular date, I think the 20th of September 2022, she received payments totaling to about 3.9 million in one single day. Are these payments also if mispayments, or they are payments related to other services perhaps? If they are not IMPREST payments rather, how come the county government was paying this particular individual if mispayments as IMPREST and not in other form, maybe RTGS or another form of payment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Counsel for Governor.
Thank you. The question, I think, Mr. Speaker, has been directed to either the counsel or the witness.
I proceed to respond then.
Thank you. The reason why we have given documents in relation to 3 people or 3 persons mentioned, the answer is in the motion itself and the manner in which it was framed, where it was indicated, the allegation was that the governor has grossly violated the law in the following: through embezzlement of county funds through the governor's sisters and the nephew to the governor's husband, all of whom are collectively referred to as the governor's relatives. That was A. B says is withdrawal of county funds under the guise of payment for various supplies by the governor's relatives. So the manner in which this particular count was framed, we were required to respond to the issues of the persons referred and collectively referred in the motion as governor's relatives, and they were listed, they were enumerated there. So if the motion indicated that the governor, or the allegation or the claim was that the governor has embezzled funds through Jane Karimi or any other person that appears in the IFMIS, then we would have substantively responded to that.
Thank you. Lastly, Senator Sifuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To counsel for the Assembly, there have been repeated references to alleged forgeries. This is specifically with regards to a work ticket whose serial number has appeared severally. I want the Assembly to clarify whether those documents have been subjected to any verification process, which Council is aware, whether there is a document examiner's report to back the allegation or assertion by the Assembly that in fact those documents are forgeries. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Counsel for the County Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, we only received those documents, I believe, on Saturday evening. So we've not had the opportunity to subject them to a forensic examination. However, you don't need to be an expert in forensics to point out that the dates in that work ticket don't follow natural chronology of events. You don't have to be an expert in document analysis if you're familiar with the frequency of the use of motor vehicles to know that the same work ticket cannot apply to different motor vehicles or even the same motor vehicle for a period of 4 months. And it is on those prima facie, on the face of it, discrepancies and irregularities that we concluded they were forgeries. The next reason why we concluded they were forgeries, these are documents that should be easily available in the governor's office. They were not availed to the assembly when they were requested, and they were not availed to the assembly in the impeachment motion. We are being slapped with them at the tail end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, counsel for the governor, you indicated you had 4 witnesses. You may now proceed to call your 4th witness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Our next and last witness is Honorable KAWIRA MWANGAZA, the Governor of Meru County.